Hello and welcome back to Dry Conversations. I'm your host, Whitney Cowell. Joining me today is my friend Stephan Mathis. Hi there, and thanks for joining me.
Good morning, and thanks for having me, Whitney.
So I have known you for a few years now, but for people that have not met you before, would you mind giving us just a little bit of background about who you are and what you've been up to recently?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I've been up to being a dad. As my dad and husband, and being very present at home. That's number one for me. Family comes before anything, any career endeavor. Family's always you gotta have the house in order. So I have three beautiful children. I have a 4-year. My oldest is turning 4. A 2-year-old boy, and I have a 5-month-old little girl. So I'm juggling a lot at the house right now, but I mean, absolutely love that. If anyone who follows along remembers that I co-founded Molo, my nickname was Papa Jumbo. It's kind of Father Jumbo. Jumbo's my nickname, and yeah. So really, just being Papa Jumbo in real life now, and now being a dad and getting to just enjoy those young years is everything for me. And yeah, obviously 15 years in the industry. I worked at Coyote Logistics in the heyday, early years in Chicago. Co-founded Molo, so I was employee number 2 or 3 at Molo. Got to ride that wave and be a part of growing that explosive company. Since then, had some entrepreneurial endeavors, and then recently landed at Good Ship, which is a freight orchestration and procurement company that is advancing the freight orchestration and really giving visibility to shippers to all of the different cost measures in their network, and finding ways to improve or surface those opportunities so that they can take action on it and build a more sustainable network, better partnerships with their carriers, and just really lean into their data and make smarter decisions. We've also recently launched the industry's first AI transportation analyst, which is super exciting. Her name is Lainey, and she will be. We're actually doing a webinar this week with a live shipper, but it's really exciting to be able to ask questions to Lainey on the data and see how she can help someone make better decisions when it comes to their freight network. So really excited to get to bring that technology to the market, connect with my former shippers that I have relationships with, and then just continue learning and developing in the industry.
Yeah, you've had a lot of change recently. And so it's good to catch up with you and hear where life has taken you. And congratulations on the newest baby. I feel like the last time we talked, you had your 2-year-old was under 1 or right at 1. So this has been a lot of change for you. And I know you said the most important thing is being present with your family while your family is growing, while there's all kinds of new dynamics happening. And we're here on a sobriety podcast, and I can't help but be very sure that your sobriety is playing a really big hand in some of the positive outcomes and being able to be even more present with your family.
Oh yeah.
And probably the job too.
Yeah, in general, just the clarity, and you're juggling a lot more as a new parent. You have schedules, less sleep, really you just have a lot more responsibilities. And so from my perspective, I made the decision. I think I did a dry January maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
When my second born came out, and I was like, wait, I could do this. Like, why not? And then it just day after day after day, it was like, I'm feeling better.
Yeah.
And then when you start really thinking about it long term, there's so many benefits for the clarity and just for your life in general.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. It made sense.
So what prompted you to do a dry January? I know some people, they're just like, I just want to challenge myself. And for other people, it's you know, it can come from a deeper place than just curiosity.
So I wouldn't even say I did a dry January. I think it's been labeled dry January.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
just woke up. My wife and I had a really low key New Year's that year. And I woke up January 1st and I was like, I don't like how I feel, and I'm not going to get a lot of sleep with this new baby here. So why not just maybe give up alcohol for a little bit while the baby's, we're waking us up every 3 hours, like. And that's really what started it for me. But it happened to be on a day, like it happened to be a new year, so that was easier to mentally, like, okay, I'm doing this as the baby's getting older, and maybe I'll do this for 45 days or 2 months or something, and kind of challenge myself. Yeah. And then also, I think as husbands, as fathers, you just watched your wife birth a baby for 9 months and they've been sober. So why can't you go through it for a little bit and see if you can not have alcohol in your life. So just all of that coupled with the benefits, I started realizing like it was the right decision.
Yeah. I mean, and that makes sense, right? Like, I know people who are, now I know moms who that is something that they think about. Is okay. It's about to be just about a year. And, depending on what early feeding is going to look like, sometimes it's longer than that when they go without alcohol. But I love that that's something that you kind of decided would be a benefit based off of just your station in life. And I think it's really interesting that it was good enough that you decided to carry it forward and to do so for this long. So I'm curious, were there like negative impacts or like consequences that were happening with alcohol that you were like putting away at that point too?
I wouldn't say negative. I think I'll just share from my experience, and maybe others have felt this way, but at one point or another throughout your life, you probably thought, what would it look like to go like a few months without it or 6 months without it? Or maybe someone talked about it and you were like, I couldn't do that. Like, that seems, why would you do that? I've had that in the back of my head before, or I've had, friends that maybe they coach basketball or something, and they just were like, I just went 6 months without a drink. I'm like, whoa, like that's crazy. Like, and so I think in my head, there's always been this like sort of challenge, like, well, could I do that? And what are the benefits of doing that? And there's so many benefits: clarity, energy, better sleep, better skin, weight loss, like controlling your weight because the empty calories. And then when you start weighing in those benefits, I'm like, wait, there's so many more positive things to like eliminating it than there are benefits to having it. And I'm not someone who's like downplaying someone who enjoys beverages or whatnot. And I don't really think I had like an issue or a problem with it. I think I just realized the benefits outweighed the doing it. And now it's like not a part of my life anymore.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a thing that's happening in the last couple of years where people are starting to realize, like, oh, it really is a poison. And, when you have a little too much of that, of course, you're going to feel like crap and not be performing at your best and not be as sharp as you could be. And, like, it makes sense, but I feel like it's one of those things until you experience it, you're like, oh, no, this, like, really can make a huge difference. So I think it's really cool that it's February 4th now, and you said that was 2 years ago?
Yeah, so I think January 1st, 2024. So I hit 2 years.
Yeah.
And for me too, I've worked out throughout my life, and had trainers or whatnot, and they'll tell you like you can work out as hard as you want, but if you don't control your diet or your intake or your alcohol, like your body, it takes anywhere between 48 and 72 hours to digest one drink. And it's like poison. So if you're trying to make gains in the gym or whatnot, but you're also occasionally having your beverages, well, like that's affecting your outcomes over on one other side. And so when you start paying attention to the pros and cons, I just started realizing like maybe just eliminating it would be easier. And then now when you think about the NA, there is a calling and a push for it and more awareness because of the benefits. But now there's so many options out there for you to be able to still maybe feel like you're socializing, but not be, not be getting the negative benefits of it. And that has really also helped me being able to find an NA beer or whatnot. If I'm at an event, grabbing a 0% beer, and I can still stand there and not feel isolated for making that choice.
Yeah, I love a good mocktail. I still, and to your point about the empty calories, I had no idea. So when I got sober, I immediately dropped like 20 pounds, and I had no idea like the health implications that came with not just the consumption. For me, it was a gross overconsumption. So like there was a little bit of a different element. And I had no idea how that was holding me back in some of my other areas of life, which was crazy. And there are so many options now. That's why I said I think there's like this movement that's happening. And a girl that was on the show at the end of 2025, she's fantastic. She lives here in Tennessee, and she like quit her day job and opened an NA bar here in Tennessee, and they're doing really well. And it's really interesting to see people come in flocks, just like as if it was a normal like alcohol serving bar. And they still have like the parties, and they have this huge menu, they stream the games. Like it really is a very fun environment. I'm planning on taking a trip this year to go check it out for myself.
Like we even had a sales kickoff recently about 2 weeks ago. Our whole team was in Scottsdale, Arizona, and a lot of information overload, sales training or whatnot, and then the after hours you get to go all hang out and have fun. And like I went to the bar with everybody and had my NA beers, and I still felt part of the team. And I think that really allows. It's becoming more normal that if you say you are NA or you don't drink, like it's not as pushed back on you like maybe it was traditionally back in the day. Like now it's like if someone says that, it's and every menu you go to, if I go to a restaurant or a bar, I feel confident that they will have something if I want to have an NA drink, but almost to the point where like if they don't have one, I'm like, is this year 2000? Like, what do you mean you don't have this? Like everybody has this, you're missing out on it. So I would say 8 out of 10 times when I go out, there's an option to have an NA beverage. So I'm pleased with that.
I am too. And you mentioned the stigma that's been around not drinking, and especially at industry events. And I know it's not just our industry. I've met a lot of sober people in a lot of different industries doing this podcast, and it seems like those functions, whether they be sales functions, right? Like anywhere from the sales kickoff to being with prospects out on the golf course, and then the actual industry events, there is this type of like expectation and pressure that has been there for such a long time to have an alcoholic beverage in your hand and to do business either at the bar or over the beer. And I'm loving that narrative is starting to change. It is a little bit more inclusive. I I feel like there was this window, because I got sober in my mid-20s, is when I stopped drinking. And there was this really awkward window where there weren't a lot of options. And I either had to stand there with my, like, everybody else has like a certain type of cup that the beverages come in. And then I would have a totally different cup just with water, just standing there and feeling a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I've noticed in the last couple of years that restaurants and bars are starting to have more options, and some of these events are starting to have like mocktail bars or like full-blown custom mocktail options. And I am, as somebody who doesn't drink, having the time of my life with the change that I've seen over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'll double down on that. I mean, I was the golf, entertain, drinks on the golf course, late night, going out, entertaining clients. Now I feel like I can do it just as present and have just as much fun, like, without it. And I feel very confident. But that was a big part of my identity previously, because that was just part of the industry, is like you wine and you dine and you friendships. And but I feel really confident that I can still do it in the same manner, and like myself, like there's no pressure as much. People respect you if you have made that decision, for the most part. But I even had, one of my best friends got married, and huge event. Obviously, we all grew up together, high school, college, so naturally there's gonna be a lot of fun happening, drinking, golf, all that. And I went the whole weekend being sober, even danced, partied all night until 3 a.m. I was drinking Heineken Zeros and like on the dance floor, had a Red Bull or two or whatever. But I wasn't going to let that derail my progress, but also not feel like I'm not having fun. Like I had just as much fun, dancing and having a blast at the wedding, and just realizing like you can do all of that without the alcohol. And once you sort of get past those hurdles of like the pressure that you would need, feel upcoming to that event or being in those environments, now it's like almost like you have a confidence about you. Like, give me an NA beer. What are your NA options? And like, you just go about it like it's totally normal.
Yeah.
So it's been really cool.
Sober weddings are surprisingly fun. I'm biased because I had one. But yeah, I almost forgot, I think, that I enjoy my own company and I enjoy the company of others, and I don't need to have a drink in my hand to enjoy those. And I think somewhere along the way, my own perspective of like fun and how to have fun got skewed, and it's sort of like this liberating, oh yeah, like part of me was like, genuinely, I just forgot, and it was a truth that just got tucked into a drawer, that I like these people because of who they are, and not because I'm a little buzzed. So I don't know if that was your experience at the wedding, but that was mine. And I worried when I got sober, because I am, a full-blown alcoholic, which is why I stay away from it. Although I did challenge myself several times, like you said, I wonder if I could stay sober and what it'd be like for a month or two, before going fully sober a couple of years ago. And there was a part of me that was like, keep in mind, I was so single when I had this thought of like, I'm going to get married and I can't have champagne. How are we ever going to have a toast at my wedding?
Yeah, you think
it wasn't a problem.
You think about these futuristic hurdles, and then you try to present it as like, oh man, when I face this, what's going to happen? Oh, I can't just have an NA champagne glass. It's a thing. Like, you can do it. But even for me at the wedding, I found myself chatting with the parents that like I knew when I was little kids, like the whole time, and being able to walk the whole room and see everybody in there and like have real, not slurred word combos, and like
Yep.
haven't seen most of you in like 10 years or 20 years when I was playing Little League baseball, and you guys were the parents in the stands. Like, not to say that there was anything wrong with that, but for me, it was like, yeah, I'm like getting to see take this whole room in and have fun.
Yeah.
Right. But I will say the children had a big effect on me. As soon as I became a dad, it was like a light bulb went off when it comes to career and what's important to you and your values, and how do you be, a high achiever, or someone who has like goals in life that wants to push forward, but
Yeah.
also balance. I got my home in place, got my children taken care of, wife, finances, and then I'm also going to go out into the world and produce and do something great with my career. Like being able to balance all of that. And I realized that like alcohol was a culprit to that.
Yeah.
Because previously, if I wind back 3 or 4 years, if I was going to fly to go see a client or be at an event or an industry event, I was maybe away from my children, having drinks, staying out late, sleeping in hotels, getting on the early bird flight back. Then you get back and you're at home and you need to get back to your family and help the wife with the newborn. And now you're like so tired from your trip and traveling and recovering when you walk back into like diapers and babies and then you need to be ready to go to work the next day. So all of that was like, man, this is interfering with being able to manage more.
Sure.
And so for me, it was easier just to remove it. And so now I'm more productive, more aware. I get better sleep. I make better decisions, sharper around my family, around clients, and like really anything that I pursue. So, but it didn't come. Obviously, it took me. I'm 38, so there's probably years where I thought I could do it or whatnot, but I think it really hit me when I became a dad of 2. And that was like, okay, now I have my 3rd, like, and I think there's something to, even when you get around people who knew you previously before that, and they're like, how long is this going for? Like, they ask you these questions, like, how long are you going to do it? Like, is this like, you just doing it? And when I get asked that, I'm like, this is like part of my life. Like, I don't know if I'm ever going to go back.
Yeah.
I enjoy this.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be one of those things where it's like, I'm always curious for people that don't have like a problem with alcohol, but they're literally just choosing their health of like, yeah, how long, what makes you decide like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to prioritize these things, or I feel like this stage of life has changed. And I find that fascinating because the motivations and the needs are like a little bit different. But I think it sets a really cool example for like your friends inside and outside of the industry, at work, at home. And it kind of sets this tone of like, I guess I think there are other people that have that like thought in the back of their head. And some of us have different strengths than others of what boldness looks like. And for you took the leap and you're doing it. And it might give courage to somebody else. It's like, I thought about that too, but I was like, maybe I was, overthinking it, or I started questioning myself, and then they try it as well. And I've seen that sort of like ripple effect where it's like, well, he tried it and he's doing great. Maybe I'm going to tap into that too and see what this is all about. And I think it's really cool when we kind of live that part out loud, how it shakes out in the lives of the people around us.
Yeah, I think you take the leap. Well, my recommendation for anyone is to like try like a 30-day or 2-week and like see how you feel from there. Maybe then extend it. If someone actually has a problem with it, I think the phrase is just one more day or just one more day. Try it for one more day. And before you know it, one more day is 3 weeks, it's 6 months, it's a year, it's 2 years, it's 5 years. And you're like, well, I just did one more day being sober. Like, and some people that helps them. But for me, it really was, and I personally do better when I remove something that doesn't work for me out of my life versus trying to dabble in like balancing it, or like sometimes I'll do this, or I only allow myself 3 drinks a week or whatever. Like like it's for me, black and white is yes or no. No, this isn't good for me. Okay, out. Right? Like, don't smoke cigarettes, don't drink alcohol. It's a good decision for my life. I'll probably live longer, be healthier. Just like logically makes sense. Like, and so that's what it is for me.
Yeah, I find that so encouraging because I played in that gray space for such a long time of trying to figure out what was going to be right for me. But I love the sober life today. It's given me, I feel like the longer I do it, the more benefits that I'm finding. And some of them are surprising and things that I would have never considered, like certain hobbies that I've picked up again. I just have this free time and this creativity and a little bit of a desire to learn more about like myself. And I know some parents, it's like, yeah, I used to go out and go fishing and have my beer, and that was like my alone time. And it's like, now I do that with my kid and I'm teaching them these things. And I just think it's such a sweet pivot of seeing the positive impacts. And I would imagine for you, it's like the positive has continued to build as well. I've yet to meet somebody that's like, I don't know, I stopped drinking and my life got so much worse.
Yeah, the benefits, it keeps adding more momentum into whatever else you want to do, because you're more, have more clarity.
Yeah.
I'm excited about my my oldest starting T-ball this year. It's like a lifelong dream to watch him play T-ball. Who knows if he's going to love it forever, but he loves sports. And so I've always wanted to be a coach and be there around my kids when they play sports. If, don't want to force it on them, but fingers crossed they seem to love it right now. They're obsessed with it. And so, again, back to what I was saying, like balancing sobriety, career as your kids are growing up is important.
Yeah.
And so for me, instilling that in them, that they can make decisions. I mean, they're so young right now, but over time, they're going to learn from their parents the most. We will have the biggest impact on their lives.
Right.
And so there's going to be a day where maybe my kids are 7, 8, 10, 12, and they're like, Dad's not drinking, everybody else is. And how Dad's like fit and in shape, and we become their role models.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it was like, why don't I start this at an earlier age so it becomes a part of my life, and then just be a great example.
Oh, I love that, and I think it's really true. Kids remember those things. They clock a lot more than I think we realize at times.
Yeah, no,
they're just little sponges.
They are sponges. My 4-year-old remembers everything I say.
I'm
good,
sure.
bad. And I'm like, you can't say that. Don't ever say that again. But no, it's like you're trying to instill, good habits, confidence in your kids. So yeah, definitely becoming a dad has really changed my life, my outlook on life, but also has definitely impacted drinking. Like I don't need it anymore. And even like, and I said it earlier, but again, having NA options really, really helps. It does. Having an NA beer in your fridge, if you end of your night, you had a rough day, you drink a NA beer, but like subconsciously it's not actually doing anything. It like maybe how alcohol used to.
Yeah.
But in your head, you're like, I'm relaxing.
Mm-hmm.
And you like can tell yourself, I'm watching a movie and I'm having an NA beer. And I can associate it with like take a break.
Oh yeah. I love sparkling waters, and there's a brand called Liquid Death, and it's my
Yeah.
favorite because they have one that tastes like Dr. Pepper, which is one of my I don't drink sodas, and I haven't in a long time. Every once in a while, I'd say like maybe 3 to 5 times a year, I'll order one and have a little bit, which the last year I feel like that number has increased, but I do love Dr. Pepper and I love a good Coke Zero. But I make the joke because my husband doesn't drink either, just kind of one of those in solidarity, he lives with somebody in recovery kind of things, that we'll just crack open a cold one and it's a sparkling water, and I've got my favorite koozies and I use those, and it's I drink one a day, and I love my new habit. I love that I get to, like you said, you kind of make it what you want. For me, it's over my lunch break. And I truly take that as like, I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going
Yeah.
to kick back for a little bit. I might watch an episode of something on my lunch break today if I'm not busy. And then I kind of like get back to it. And I like that like I said, I just have these like new habits now that I feel like support the lifestyle that I want for myself. And I love that your kids are going to grow up watching you choose things, and know that they one day will also have options.
Choosing. Yeah, I think if I can instill anything in my children is that you can choose the life you want and what
Yeah.
you want in it, and you can remove things if they don't work. And that's a big piece of what I've been doing lately is like, let's pull out the things I don't like and pour into what I love. And
Yeah.
this has been a big part of that. I was going to ask you, like, what have you added in replace of that, like from a beverage perspective that maybe enables you to continue with sobriety, which you mentioned those.
Yeah. I love my sparkling waters. It's kind of fun. I drink hot chocolate more now as an adult, which is like just a sweet treat in the wintertime, and those are the kind of things where it's like, oh yeah, I forgot that I have free will, and if I want hot chocolate at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm just gonna do that. And then I do go to a lot of events, as I know you do too. I'm not in sales, so I'm not whining and dining customers and prospects, which I'm honestly a little thankful for, but I love a good cranberry soda with lime. I like something that's refreshing, and I now choose what I like based off of genuinely what I like and not how it makes me um
Yeah, that's good.
Anything with ginger in it, if I'm going to get a mocktail or something that's like a non-alcoholic option. I've learned to rotate in quite a few things as far as like replacement. But then some of that time that I would spend, drinking and going out, like I said, I've invested in these other hobbies and arguably spending a lot less money on them.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say for me, definitely the sparkling waters. I think that's in my rotation throughout the day. If
Yep.
I step out, I grab one out of the garage fridge. Espresso in the morning. But I mean, I was always a coffee drinker. I love coffee. But yeah, I would say coffee. Yeah, coffee, sparkling water, and then occasional NA beers or whatnot. But there's even, now that I just think about this, when you think about business or what they portray in movies or like the cool office, and you got the cocktail beverage, the glasses and the whiskey decanter in the back, and
Oh
sit
yeah.
in my office, and man, I'm a lawyer, and let me pour you a bourbon or a brandy to like cheers and celebrate. Like, I had that in my head of like, this is business,
Yep.
and you see that all the time. And it was like a part of my backdrop. I was like, I had a cool office, but as I was going through like the transition, or even like thinking about it, maybe like the year before I decided, I always had this like, well, I don't really drink as much. or I'm not going to, but like I have this like old person who I was who thought this was cool to show my office with, you know, this expensive bourbon that I had. And I'm not knocking that. I think it was just like part of my like life or identity or what I thought was like a cool office. And now it's like collects dust in this like, I don't know, armoire somewhere in my house. I don't even know where it is, but and I just think that there's like sort of societal things that you think that you should have, or even the gifts that you get from people for holidays. Like, I got you a cool decanter so you can drink more, or I got you these fun cocktail glasses, and I have all of these things from over the years. I'm like, I don't even use them anymore. Like, I should probably give them away. I even have the alcohol that I had like in a bar. It's in like a box in the garage, and it's like collecting dust. I probably should like hand it to somebody, but yeah, for me it was just removing it, and it's like not a part of the daily rotation anymore.
Yeah. And I still like some of my, you know, and on the other side, I think it's also, there's like this gender bias in it too, right? Where it's like for the women, it's like, well, you come home and you pour yourself your glass of wine. And then there was like this phase a couple years ago with all the sweatshirts. It was like rosé all day.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I used to actually take people up on that offer. And, you know, for me, there are a couple of things like the champagne flutes from the wedding venue where we got married, where like we will do our like sparkling Welch's in it every once in a while when we're celebrating something together, like, you know, an anniversary dinner if we're going to be here at the house or something. And then I've given, you know, some of those nice glasses to other people, but there are a couple of things that I kept and I'm like, I'm still going to use this in the way that I choose to use it. Like, I think I finally got rid of like the wine glass. I had really pretty wine glasses and I used to just pour like, I would pour blueberry juice in it, and that just because I enjoyed the things that I had and not necessarily what they represented. But yeah, I mean, there also comes a point where, like you said, removing the things that aren't serving me anymore, where it's like, I think I'll say goodbye. Those champagne flutes, I think we're going to keep, just because they're sentimental, you know, and it has the venue that's on it. But there are some times where it's like, I think we can change, like you said, the gifts and stuff. Like I remember signing a lease at an apartment and they had this like welcome basket and there was a bottle of champagne that was in it. And I like called them, you know, called the office and was like, hey, I'm going to bring this back to you. I don't drink. Thank you so much for thinking of me. You know, there have been a couple of times where people don't know that I'm sober and, you know, there's like, housewarming gifts have happened where it's like, oh, I'm just going to send this back with you. Thank you so much. You know, I'd rather just a handwritten card, to be honest with you. The things that matter to me are just different today than they used to be.
Yeah. And I think definitely celebrating people who made the choice because they needed to also is relevant. You know, like for me, it was a choice. I don't feel like I had a problem. I just realized it wasn't the best thing for me. But, you know, I have friends who had, you know, more challenges and, you know, with addiction or whatnot. And like, it's part of their life. Like they needed to make the change because they wouldn't, you know, their life wasn't going the right way or whatnot. Right. So, but, you know, and so for me, I get to celebrate being sober with my, you know, some of my friends or whatnot. But yeah, I would love to continue just socializing and being a part of like groups that honor it and like wear it on their sleeve, or, you know, it's a part of their life. But also like even my wife and I, like, because when you're married, what one person does affect the other person.
Yeah.
And so when I went through my journey, my wife noticed she stopped drinking as much, because like before, if I was wanting to have a drink or like watch a game or watch a movie at night, hey, you want a glass of wine? I'll make a cocktail, and now she barely drinks now. She has occasional glass of wine or maybe a mimosa or something if we're celebrating, but her life has changed for the better. And she wasn't really a drinker before, but now it's had an impact on our house.
Yeah. It does that. Like I said, sometimes it ripples out, and it's really cool to see that ripple effect. And I'm sure just like you are, your wife is probably experiencing some really positive outcomes. Even I just, yeah, I don't know. I feel like we just kind of notice, like you said, you feel better, your skin is better, like there's a fogginess that, depending on how often you drink, that goes away. And I don't know about you, but I just feel like hangovers when you're older are a lot harder than they were when you were like 19.
Yeah, hangovers was a big part of it. I mentioned traveling and getting back, and then like trying to get back into a rhythm, and it takes you 2 days to feel sharp again. So that was a big part of it too. But I think also, which maybe a lot of people don't know that it's happening, but alcohol actually spikes your blood sugar and causes you to eat more.
Yep.
Because you're constantly craving something. And so a lot of people will eat more while they're drinking, which then affects their weight, their health, and you're probably eating worse things. You're not going and grabbing vegetables when you're drinking beers late at night. You're eating fries and burgers and wings and whatever it is, like
the drunk munchies.
Yeah, and so there's a definitely health benefit from controlling your cravings on both sides. So removing alcohol and then removing extra eating had an impact on me as well. When I first went through, I think my first 4 months, I lost like 30 pounds. So similar to what you said, it was just like, whoa. Because then your body can digest the other foods better because it's not trying to digest poison, right? So your liver and all your rest of your organs, like, oh, thanks, this isn't here now. Wait, you just ate a burger. And I even had a phase where I was eating what I wanted whenever I wanted, and like not worrying about the donut or the cheeseburger or whatever, because like my body was like, well, there's no alcohol, so I'm gonna grab that. And it was mind blowing that your body will adapt to what you're throwing into it.
Yeah, it does. It does. And then, your body kind of resets when you sleep, and you sleep better too. And so there's, and that also can impact like your weight and like your overall health. If you're not sleeping, which I know as a parent, you're already sacrificing a good bit of that. And I just, I couldn't imagine trying to balance all of those things and like truly living in exhaustion, so I'm glad that you and your wife are on this journey. It sounds like together, and that you're setting this example for your kids. It just seems like everything is just headed in such a positive direction for you right now. And I love having a front row seat to just watch it unfold.
Yeah, I'm glad you reached out. I think it's important to share working on hard challenges, but having meaning behind it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been a new part of my identity, and I love it, and I love who I'm becoming, which is cool.
That's amazing, and I'm sure that radiates out. That type of joy, I think, is very infectious. I think it's noticeable, and it's not like loving who you're becoming isn't something that stays inward from my experience. So for anybody that maybe has been inspired by this, or is like learning how to navigate industry events, or, is just resonating with your story and maybe wants to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
LinkedIn. I'm pretty heavy on LinkedIn. So shooting me a connection request and sending me a message. Can also offer my email address, sm@stephanmathis.com. They can email me. But yeah, love connecting with others who are on the journey of life together. Because I think that's ultimately what we're all doing, whether it's career, families, personal life. You're on a journey, right? And you're trying to figure out the pieces that all work together so that you're happy every day. That's the whole point of what we're doing when we wake up and we go back to bed. So I'm on that journey, and welcome connecting with others who are putting all the pieces together.
That's fantastic, and thank you for being open to being part of somebody else's journey if they so choose. It has been so fun catching up with you, and I do hope I get to see you, in person at some point this year. And yeah, thanks again for being vulnerable and sharing your story and coming on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me, and yeah, would definitely like to see you at one of the conferences this year.
Yeah. And to everybody else, thanks again for coming back. This is year 2, so I'm excited. This is episode 2 of the year, and we will see you next time.